Hi, folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a run of articles, and I saw some a few months ago, and they've started up again, about how women are being kept out of STEM fields and out of CEO roles. It's the glass ceiling. There's also another dimension to this now that's getting a good run on some of the business websites called the glass cliff. Not the glass ceiling, but the glass cliff. What this is if women are given a CEO's job that's difficult, or where there's a chance of failing, or where the company is looking to go in a new direction or something like that, and either the CEO is deemed to have failed by the board, or the company goes belly up, or runs into serious trouble, something like that. So that's what's called the glass cliff. That's where a woman is given a CEO's job, but it's a difficult job, and she may not succeed. So this idea that a woman CEO should be given a situation that involves any risk at all, any risk, is considered to be an outrage, an act of oppression by fucking Nazis. So if you look at a number of failed female CEOs, did they fail? No, they did not fail. And if you say that, you're a Nazi. What happened was they were just given a job that was difficult, and that's it. And if it had been a man, they'd have been given an easy job. And so only men get the easy, prestigious gigs, and women get the impossible gigs. Even though we're far superior to men in every way, if we're given a gig that's not easy, then that is an act of oppression. It is the glass cliff. So I don't, that's chutzpah. Now, I looked at the articles that are pushing this around. They're nearly all written by Jewish journalists or activists masquerading as journalists. I couldn't find one that wasn't written by a Jewish journalist on this glass cliff business. I mean, they must be out there, I guess, because it's doing the rounds. Most of them were lesbian too, interestingly. But there's another bunch of articles going around, again, sort of repeating from what was happening about 6 weeks ago, which is women being frozen, kept out of STEM, and it's oppression, it's systemic misogyny, and it's fucking Hitler's everywhere. So I'll just I pulled up an article here that's I'll use as a base. There are others, but I'll use this one as the, if you like, the boilerplate. But so it's talking about women are not staying in or going into STEM as nearly as much, and then they're not staying in it for any length of time. So the photograph on the front is two young women who look like fashion models. I'd seriously doubt they're STEM, and they've got the white coats and the gloves and shit on. Neither of them are white. I'd say brown. One looks sort of Indian, and the other maybe Southeast European, I would guess. Now the lady who's written the article she's straight, but she's again a professional propagandist activist working for a government department. That's all she does is churn out race and gender propaganda, and so she's just been brought along to do this. Now she, again, given she's a strident activist and so on, you'd think that would be in the byline, but instead she's presented as an independent journalist, simply commenting on the facts. And nothing could be further from the truth. That's not accurate. So already the article's failed in my view. Now, I don't care if they want to do a propaganda piece, and this definitely is that. They want to give the byline by Billie Jean Smith, activist and propagandist for government department, So give the credentials, but don't put her up as an independent. She's not. She's an activist. Anyway, the situation for women in STEM is hopeless. That's the opening line. No matter what women do, it's they're oppressed, they're held back, glass ceilings, wicked misogynist Nazis everywhere, evil men, straight white males, So they talk about the recruitment of girls into STEM, or younger women into STEM, is somewhat successful. But what they don't point out is that the big difference is brought about by affirmative action. There's no merit passes here. Girls are being affirmative actioned into STEM to get into it, and then affirmative action into passing STEM. They don't talk about the amount of women that drop out of STEM here, but so when women get out of college or university, not many of them last very long in STEM. Now, why is that? Well, the only reason it can be is because of fucking Nazi fucking misogyny. There is no other reason. Is it because low IQ women are affirmative action? No, and if you say that, you're a fucking Nazi. So we're talking about women now make up, 40+% of enrollments in STEM courses. Now they don't mention that's only since big affirmative action programs kicked off. But even this is a complaint. Well, it should be exactly equal. But even more than that is there's more women overall in university doing peace studies and gender studies and lesbian dance courses and everything, that there should actually be more women than men in STEM in order to achieve an imaginary equity. But hey, there you go. But of the women that get STEM degrees, again, most of them being gifted through affirmative action, supposedly only around 10 to 15% actually stay in the field. Now, they don't give a time frame over this. So is it within the first year? Is it in 10 years? Is it over 20 years? Or, exactly what is it? So they don't say. So 10 to 15% of women stay in the STEM field, whereas the rest leave, according to this article. Now, this is reflected, they say, in the number of women who work in STEM, which is, again, around 15% or so. Then they go straight to, well, this is a problem. This clearly it's a problem. Given that it isn't equal outcomes, it must be a problem. And given it's a problem, the cause of it must be misogyny, fascism, Hitler. Those can be the only causes. Is it lazy women or low IQ women, affirmative action that can't actually do the work? Is it because men are more alive? No, it's none of those things. And if you say that, you're a misogynist Nazi. So then they go straight to quote a report on gender equity. And that report, which I went to look at, was produced by the Gender Studies Department, which is lesbian academic, activists wall to wall. There's nothing independent or impartial about these people. And they've released, which was paid, a study, by the way, that was paid for by an activist NGO. Women go into STEM and they thrive. They're thriving because they're all geniuses, but they're held back by, wait for it, men, misogynists. That's it. No other, it can't be any other reason. So straight away, we've got a report here that is a biased piece of propaganda. The lesbian activist who's in charge of that of another or from another university who's did another report. Again, gender studies lesbian activists say that, don't put her up as an independent academic. She's not. So she says that according to their research, that within 5 years of getting into STEM, starting work in STEM, women leave within 5 years. So why is this? Well, so the lesbian gender studies activist says, well, the workplace culture is unsupportive to women. Special arrangements must be made for women who are just as good, if not better, than men, and harder working and brighter and clever and all this sort of thing. But even so, special arrangements have to be made so the workplace culture is supportive. Because at the moment, the workplace culture, this is why women is hostile to women, hostile to because all those fucking Nazi misogynist men, they're everywhere. Hitler's everywhere. And so these young women decide it's just not worth the aggravation of tolerating all this misogyny, all this fascism, all this Hitlerism, all this Nazism. So they leave to become hairdressers or something. So they leave to do something, pick a different career. Now, I don't know why you'd do that if you'd put that much time into getting a STEM degree. Now, the implication here is all the women that are leaving are all the PhDs. So women who've gone on to do a PhD have put a lot of years into it. And there'd be even in a second, third tier university, there'd be no change out of $250,000 in college fees if you've gone to the PhD level. So somehow this article's arguing that these women who, and again, they'd have been affirmative action through, but kind of the PhD, they got a $250,000 debt. They get, and the first sign of difficulty or trouble or anything, they just walk straight out the door. That's there because of all the fucking Nazis. This is I mean, that's an absurd proposition, absolutely absurd. But this is what they try and run with. So how do they define a hostile workplace? And to do this, they asked women, LGBTQ and trans people, non-binary people. Those are the ones. I don't know how many PhDs in STEM, trans and non-binary, but anyway, though, that was the pool. What about straight white men? Well, no, they're the fucking Nazis. We can't ask them. So women said that they're suffering serious sexual harassment. Now, if they're the women that I've seen in STEM, I don't believe for even 1 second they're getting sexually harassed. Unless it's by the nerdiest, unattractive men in the whole universe, maybe then, but even then I doubt it. So it said, no, as soon as they rush for that one straight away, sexual harassment, women being sexually harassed by misogynist Nazis, then it's just a very hostile work environment, whatever that means. So the environment is insufficiently inclusive. What the fuck does that mean? Women had their skills weren't being utilised. I don't know what that means. Again, too vague to really. But something like they're forced to organise social functions. I don't know about forced. I don't know anyone who's ever done the social functions be forced to. But I suppose there must be one somewhere. But this is an indicator of misogyny. So if you're a woman and you're asked to do or do I don't know, social functions, social club stuff, then you're being demeaned because you're a woman by misogynists who are Nazis. So this makes women feel their skills aren't being properly appreciated. Well, what skills? You come straight out of college. I don't know if you got any skills, but anyway. They allege that men don't have to do or aren't involved in the social clubs and things like that. Well, I remember attending meetings not that long ago, when I was in the sort of the corporation, and a lot of companies do have social clubs, and I think are kind of a good idea, but I don't know if they are today, given the toxic nature of feminism and LGBTQ type propaganda. But anyway, and when the CEO or whoever the manager is or something says, does anybody want to do the social club? Typically, it's the women who all put their hands up, and several of them. You might get a guy putting his hand up, but it typically would be someone that doesn't have a pressing, demanding job, so that they can dedicate some time to it. But I've noticed this women are gagging to get to do the social clubs. So this idea that's being forced on women by evil misogynists is just bullshit. So there were entrenched attitudes. Again, this is all very feminist and Marxist, the language here. You could sort of, this is the way they complain about every workplace. It's the same, exactly the same format. Even if there's all women working there, they still use these sort of complaints, as in the structural nature of how they present it. So there are entrenched attitudes, and where women are not properly valued. Again, I don't even know what that means. There's unconscious bias, and there's prejudice. No, I just don't believe that. But apparently, this is what's holding women back and why women leave. And women are being forced to make coffee for the men, while those men leer at them and run their hands over their mammary glands and their ass. These evil misogynists, they're leering at these women, and the women have to go and make coffee while men leer and jeer and tell gross misogynist jokes. The Nazis, they wave swastikas around while the woman makes the coffee. Those fucking Nazis. So, I've never seen that. Years ago, I used to see that sort of thing, but when I go into offices these days, as part of the business I own, companies are terrified of this sort of thing, and they'll if either people go out to get coffee, making coffee as an example, either people get their own, but I haven't seen one instance where a woman goes to make the coffee. I have seen situations where, like, high school age type interns might be doing it, that. But typically, they're going to get the coffee at the local store, the local cafe, or something like that, rather than make it. But they're trying to present it in this article that women are given the demeaning jobs, and they made me get on my knees and clean the floor with a toothbrush. Those Nazis. They're trying to sort of gin it up as being a violent, oppressive sort of. And then these women are told, ordered to clean the office kitchen. And clean the office. Wow, the Nazis whipped me, tore the skin off my back. Which is, again, nonsense. This is all made up bullshit. And women are sometimes seen as too fragile for high pressure jobs. You think this article sort of always confirms the fragility, and now you're complaining that they thought I was being fragile. And but whenever a woman makes a mistake, it reflects on all women. All women are oppressed when their mistake is pointed. All women are oppressed when their mistake is pointed out. And the only reason women's mistakes are pointed out is because all the men there are fucking Nazis, misogynist Nazis. Men never get pulled up for their mistakes. They never. It's only women that get victimized by Nazis. I've never heard so much nonsense and crap in my life. I mean, gee whiz, they obviously haven't worked in any of the places I had bosses climb all over me when I've made mistakes. And I've seen other men being, and I've seen men being fired for what I think are really, misdemeanor level sort of, mistakes, where I've seen women being, oh, she's so cute, isn't she? Oh, she's crying. Yeah, let's not fire her. And I've seen that a million times. So it's unconscious bias, and it's insidious. It's invisible. It's everywhere. Misogyny. Now, women apparently have to volunteer to work out of hours, and it disproportionately affects women working this out of. Men just don't do it. It's only women. Now, that is an outright fucking lie. The amount of times me as the boss in the office, and I've said, I need some of you to stay back to help with, this or that, or do a proposal for a big bid that we're doing like that. I hardly ever get women to agree to do it. You occasionally will get something, but or some will try and say, well, I would do it, except that my mum's sick and I have to look after my mum, and this sort of thing. But it's rare that you do get it, but it's very rare. Whereas men, no problem, men will stay. So then they switch to the other side and say, well, women have families at home. So somehow we've got the situation where a woman who studied all through to PhD, you've got to assume that hasn't got children at this stage, given they're suggesting she's young, and at the same time they've just started work in STEM. They've also got multiple children. Now, if they've had multiple children, say in the first 10 years of work, and they're suggesting here 2+, then how can they have put that time into the work? At the very least, they'd have had to have taken 12 to 18 months off, probably longer. And they must be reasonably well-to-do if they can afford to pay for a PhD and pay for childcare once they're, and so on, unless there's a relative, but looking after the children. So this idea that if they have taken 18 months plus off in the first 10 years of their, or less, according to this, first 5 or 6 years, then they obviously would lose seniority in the overall scheme of things. So it doesn't make any sense to me that this would, the children factor is, well, we have to look after children. So women have to look after children. Men don't. Why can't men do more? Men don't have the same roles. Men don't have to look after children. The article really goes on. So women who do achieve management positions still in STEM here, they're putting here, have to work much harder than men. Much harder than men. Men can just sit around and do nothing, but women have to work harder and harder and harder and take the pressure and do. It's just unreal what a raw deal women have, and so that's another reason why women leave STEM, because all the men just sit around and do absolutely nothing while the women do all the work and have to look after children at home. So there's then talks about alleged PhDs and these PhDs say, the study's accurate. Not surprised. That's how it is. The men do nothing, misogyny everywhere, hostile work environment. I'm the most brilliant PhD in years, but those men, they just won't recognize my brilliance, those damn fucking Nazis. Then it switches around. So men couldn't dedicate their time to doing the job of a senior researcher, senior PhD level research, unless they had a wife to take care of the home and do everything. But that assumes they have children. People have fewer and fewer children now. So women say, well, the only way I can get to the top level is not to get married and not to have children. So the article then argues that all these PhD women in STEM are somehow all clamoring to have a large family as quickly as possible when they finish college and be the most senior managerial top executive researcher in the STEM company at the same time. I mean, that's an absurd proposition to put forward. Doesn't anyone see through this crap? A woman was elevated to be the head of a research laboratory, and she's of course way better at it than any man. Way better. I mean, it wasn't even a competition. Way better. But there's the management should have given her extra support and should have given her time off for personal development, and because they didn't, she had to leave this well-paid, prestigious job, and she had to leave because of the fucking fascist Nazis. That's why they did it to her. They forced her to leave. She had no choice, and it went on. Now it's said that women would often take jobs that were lower stress and paid less, but that's only because of the evil, hostile, fascist Nazi work environment, not because they can't hack it. That's nothing to do with it. So the article really continued along those lines. The workplace is just unsupportive. The workplace benefits men, but benefits everyone except women and LGBTQ and da. So and so we need workplace flexibility, whatever that means. But this is a run of articles that do this same thing. They're all bullshit feminist propaganda, but they're really doing the rounds, and you can easily see through the nonsense that they're peddling. You're being a Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.